Once upon a time, there was a girl who wanted to be a youth minister. She went to a Christian college to get a degree in order to do this. While she was in college, there was a time when people could choose to take regular spring break, or they could choose to go on a missions trip. She had gone on one mission trip before to Mexico, and thought this was a great idea. So when the time came for her to choose which mission trip she wanted to be with, she chose the Mormon mission trip. What is a Mormon mission trip? Well, let me take you on a journey. A Mormon mission trip is when you as a Christian go out into the world and tell Mormons why their book is wrong and the Bible is right. Yes, I'm telling you the truth. This really happened to me, and I really did think I was doing God's work. But how did all this happen? Growing up, I was obsessed with the idea of Mormonism. Everywhere we moved, I would always have Mormon friends. My family called me the Mormon magnet because they would always find me as a child. When I was younger, I had no idea what Mormons believed. All I knew was my mom was very protective of me when it came to my Mormon friends. She was always afraid that I would be sucked into this religion, and often did whatever she could to keep me away from it. Looking back now, this all seems ridiculous, especially since I was the one telling them about Jesus and how their religion was not correct. Due to all the interactions with Mormons, I honestly believed God had a purpose for me, and it was going to do with the Mormon faith. Check out my video about leaving the church to see why I left faith behind. Going back to my original story, I spent a couple weeks in college learning about the Mormon religion. I knew what I had read in the Christian books and watched in documentaries. I had never heard from a Mormon what they actually believed. The ministry we were working with in Utah was run by a man who was raised in the Mormon church, and he wanted to bring people to Christ. He used Christian colleges all over the U.S. who wanted to go to Utah, learn about Mormonism, and do a mission trip in the heart of Mormon country. After learning about the religion, spring break finally came, and we were off on our adventure. This adventure would take us to Ogden, Utah. Here we lived in a little house that had bunk beds in it, where we would all sleep. We would spend our days talking about how we can convert Mormons. Then we would go over to the college near us and talk to the college kids about being Mormon, and try to lure them back to the house so we could give them a talk about how Mormonism was incorrect. This links in with the idea that Christians use humanitarian acts to lure people into a false sense of trust. I have a video here you can watch about that idea. Often at the house, we would feed them and do whatever we could to make them feel comfortable. We were being taught how to trap people into a religious idea that was not the only one they were raised in. Our entire goal was to get these young adults, who were the same age as us, to hang out at the house, and then build this false sense of friendship in order to get them into our tribe. No one should be in another tribe. They need to be in only ours. The next day we spent all day at the temple complex. We were shown the tabernacle, the outside of the temple, but we were not allowed inside because we were not Mormon. We saw a lot of other buildings there. There are a few things that stood out to me when I was there. One was that all the people working or volunteering there were all very welcoming and would answer any question that we had. The second was that the part that showed the history of the world was extremely whitewashed. They had some statues telling some of the Bible stories, and they were all white. Third, they are super family-oriented. They had a whole building dedicated to family genealogy, which is super important if you know anything about Mormonism and baptizing for the dead. After we took our tour, we went to the theater, which told the story of Joseph Smith and how he found the truth. It told the story of how he found the truth over time because God showed him that all churches except the LDS Church were wrong. Ironically, I was sitting there wondering, how in the world can anyone believe this story? Myself and the other college kids with me looked around. There were Mormons in the crowd, crying their eyes out as they watched. After it was all over, we met outside to talk about our shared experience. Most of us talked about how all we wanted to do while we were in there is leave. Some even said they were super close to leaving at the beginning because none of it made sense to us. Why would it, though? This is not the religion that we were raised in. There was not a huge difference when it came to Christians and Mormons. I just could not see at the time that all of it was a problem. Then we went to another ex-Mormon's ministry. This lady said she was related to Brigham Young, and left the church when she found out that the Bible was true. She showed us a slideshow of what she was taught growing up, and described to us different ceremonies and costumes that they used. It was here that I felt like I needed to support her ministry, so I bought a Book of Mormon from her to support her work in changing people's minds about the LDS Church. We also went to a Mormon church. This was the most awkward place we went to. I stood out like a sore thumb. We were told to dress nicely, but they did not say I had to wear a skirt. I'm very much a pants type of girl, so when I went to church, and I was the only girl wearing pants, people knew this was not someplace I go often. We went to Sunday school and heard them talk about the Book of Mormon. I do not remember what verse they were talking about, but it was no different than my church. They just used a different book and talked about it instead. Once Sunday school was over, we went to the main service. They had some announcements, sang some songs, had communion, and a sermon. This experience for me did not change my mind on anything. There was nothing different between the churches, except what they believed. When the service was over, then we went to what we call real church. Looking back at it now, it seems silly. I went to 2 different services. I was just more into the one that I had been raised in than the one I knew nothing about. Should I have done any of this? Probably not. I cringe at the fact that I was doing the same thing that their missionaries were doing. We did not want people to be in another tribe. We had a very them versus us mentality. They were lost souls because they had been raised in a false religion and were on their way to hell without knowing it. We had the keys to heaven, though. We could just show them how loving our God is, that Jesus was better than Joseph Smith. We had this idea that everything we had been taught was true. We saw this religion as a cult who preyed on people, and we wanted to stop it. How ironic is that? We were using the same tactics to change their minds, yet we never looked into the truth of our religion. We never took the time to say, why is the Bible any more factual than the Book of Mormon? How do we know that any gods are real? We were young adults just starting out, and we were being used as pawns to get more pawns into this idea of truth. Christianity is no more true than Mormonism. They're both based in faith. They're both religions that have in and out groups. They both have their own ideas on heaven, hell, Jesus, God, and the truth. What they do not have is the ability to use critical thinking skills. As an atheist now, I know that all religions have a problem when it comes to truth. They base their religion on feelings, and trust the people around them have done their own research when it comes to their religion. They all rely on outdated books that create division in the human race. Religion is a poison on society. I'm truly sorry for doing this in my life. I'm sorry that I was tricked into hurting other people and making them think that religion is needed for a fulfilling and joyful life. I'm sorry that I did not have the critical thinking skills that would have kept me away from doing such vile and predatory things. As an atheist, I want to help others have skills and get away from these harmful ideas. You get one life to live, and I don't want anyone to waste it on something that is simply not true. I do not want to use feelings and pounce on people when they are down. I want to give them the skills to look into ideas and facts themselves and make up their own minds. I want people to be happy and do what they want in their lives. Looking at my past helps make a better future not only for my family, but for others who have been through the trauma and pain that I have been through. You don't need God or faith to be happy. You do not need to look to some mystical being to have a purpose in your life. You can make your own purpose. You can make your own happiness. You can do what you want with your life and enjoy it. Hey friends, check out these awesome videos here, or you can watch my personal stories about leaving the church here. Spread the word about my channel, and if you liked it, smash that like button. And remember, only you can break out of the bubble and start thinking for yourself.